Hello. In this week's video, I want to talk a little bit about American federalism. That's the topic this week. And at the end of your reading, you will have a critical thinking assignment due this week. This is the first of 5 critical thinking essays that you'll be submitting to me this semester. In the critical thinking assignments, you actually write a 200-word essay response to the question that I posted. This is a little different than the discussion board assignment. In the critical thinking essay assignment, you actually write a 200-word essay and submit it directly to me through the form provided. So you're not submitting it for others to look at, you're submitting it directly to me. So please make sure you read the instructions for the assignment. This week's question asks whether you think the federal government has taken on too many responsibilities that would be better handled by the states, or is it appropriate that the federal government has taken on certain responsibilities? Some background on the question. Before you answer it, please make sure you've read carefully the chapter as well as the lecture. And in the lecture, you'll notice that I divide American federalism into 3 distinct periods. The first period was nation-centered versus state-centered federalism. The second, dual federalism. And the third period is the one we're currently in, which is cooperative federalism. So please make sure you read through those. The critical thinking assignment really is dealing with the third period of American federalism, which is a period in which we've seen the federal government take on a number of responsibilities that in the past would have been primarily handled at the state level. A couple of examples of things the federal government has done in recent years that used to be handled primarily by the states. Education. Now, education is still a state responsibility, but the federal government since the 1960s has provided a lot of money to the states to better educate their students, to improve educational standards, and so forth. And that money goes to almost every public school in the country. Now, most money for education is state money, but the states benefit greatly from the federal money because it does help them to provide a lot of services that they would not be able to provide otherwise. Now, there are some who are critical of this, believing that the federal government should not be getting too involved in education since it has always been a state responsibility. But again, others argue that if the federal government was not providing this money to the states would not be able to provide a lot of the services, educational services, that they provide to their students. Another example of something the federal government has taken on in recent years has been health care. Back in the 1960s, the federal government established the Medicare and Medicaid programs. Medicaid is health insurance for low-income families, and it is a joint federal-state program. The federal government provides the money. The states actually provide the benefits. There's also Medicare, which is health insurance for the senior citizens. And then more recently, there's the Affordable Care Act, which is a federal program that is operated in many states, in every state, but in some states, the states themselves run it, which provides health insurance to people who do not get it through their employer. There has been a large political debate about the Affordable Care Act, and it may be possibly repealed by Congress in coming weeks, but right now it still exists. All of those are examples of where the federal government has taken on a responsibility that in the past would have been handled primarily at the state level. Some people believe the federal government has infringed on states' rights by doing this, whereas others argue if the federal government was not helping the states with these activities, then the states would not be able to serve their citizens very well. In the healthcare example, if you look at Medicaid, Medicaid is the health insurance program for low-income families, and the federal government provides the money for the program. It has actually expanded the program in the last several years. In a number of states, both Democratic and Republican, have expanded their Medicaid programs because they know it helps their citizens stay healthy. But again, the criticism that people make of these federal efforts at helping the states is that it's federal intrusion into state responsibilities. So some people argue against it based on their view of federalism, whereas others argue that it's a positive thing that the federal government is helping the states in these areas. So that's kind of what the question is asking. So please, if you have any questions about the assignment or about the topics covered in this week's reading or lecture, please let me know. So please make sure you've done that reading before you answer the critical thinking question. Thank you.